Hello everybody and welcome to today's special event in which we will be discussing the new home concept that has the potential to double the returns for investors. I'm Terry Ryder, founder of hotspotting.com.au, and my special guests today are Adam Barclay from the Gallery Group and buyer's agent Scott Northcott of Property Hotspot. The background to this event is that research has shown that traditional rental properties fail to fulfil the main wish list items of tenants. And at the same time, investor owners often get disappointing rental returns from typical houses. But a new housing concept now emerging in key market hotspots is addressing both those problems. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Now, we encourage your participation. So if you have any questions or comments, please type them into the chat box or the Q&A panel that you should see in front of you. And we'll do our best to respond to as many of your questions and comments as possible in the coming hour. So Adam Barclay and Scott Northcott, welcome. And if I could perhaps turn first to you, Adam, perhaps you could firstly tell us a little bit about the Gallery Group and what you do and where you do it.
Sure. Yeah, we're headquartered in Southeast Queensland. So we have an office in Brisbane, an office on the Gold Coast, Sanctuary Cove, office in Sydney, and an office in Melbourne. Building licence up the eastern seaboard of Australia. And we build homes in a number of different markets, so both geographically and product type. So everything from entry-level homes for first home buyers up to luxury homes that are sort of architect designed, bespoke. So a pretty broad selection of housing design, and have a development business and also an asset management business that's there to support it.
Okay. So is it fair to say that the genesis of this concept we're going to be talking about today, co-living, was some research that your company did, seeking to delve a little bit deeper into the what tenants are looking for?
Yeah, look, I like data. The numbers really lie. So we've all got an opinion on all sorts of things, but when you dive into some data, and particularly census data, you start to pick up some real gems. So I looked at the 2016 census data, having had this idea that there was a marketplace for shared accommodation, and quite frankly, I was startled with what I found in terms of the number of lone person households in Australia. Right now there's sort of 2.3 odd million people that live alone in Australia, and at about 24% of the population, and that's going to grow to about 3.5 million people by 2041. So, in excess of 27% of the population will be living alone by 2041. And it's just not a market that's being cared for, quite frankly.
And it raises a problem for those people. How do you afford to rent what's available, which just might be a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom apartment? Doing that single-handedly can be a big chunk of somebody's income.
Yeah, look, and I think that it's topical right now. Obviously, the phrase rental distress, or even lack of supply. When you again look at the data tells us that in excess of 50% of the population earn $89,000 or less per year. For those people to not be in rental distress from the day they move into a property, they need to be paying less than $400 per week for a rental property. And a quick search on the likes of realestate.com or Domain right now will pretty quickly show you that there's not a lot for rent under $400 per week. So for those people that are living alone, they need an alternative solution. Otherwise, as a landlord, you've got someone potentially moving into your property that's under rental distress from day one, and I don't see that as a sound decision.
No. So partly this is about affordability for that demographic, but there are also other elements, isn't it? And fundamentally, that the sorts of things that are provided by a typical share house you might share with flatmates don't really sort of tick a lot of boxes for what tenants are really looking for.
Again, when you look at, and we're using flatmates.com.au as the reference point because it's the largest individual platform for shared accommodation in Australia. There's about 15,000 people advertising properties on flatmates.com.au, so individual rooms for rent, and there's 20,000 individuals actively looking today. So we know that it's probably the reference point for properties. The challenge that we see with flatmates, not with flatmates, but with the product that's being offered right now, is that almost 75% of it is in shared accommodation with the owner living in the property. So you're, as a tenant, you're moving into someone else's home. And it's certainly, from our research, that's not what tenants want. They want to be on an equal footing with the other tenants in the property.
Okay. So what are some of sort of the key elements? Now, I guess it was asking people for their perfect world wish list of what they would like to see if they could have their dream accommodation. Well, what are some of the elements?
Yeah, look, and we again, when we started this, I had this idea in my head that it was student accommodation, and I couldn't have been further from the truth from that, what is now a misconception. We asked questions of about 1,300 individuals that were living in shared accommodation at the time, and said, okay, what do you like, what you don't like, some demographics, etc. So we found out very quickly that the average age was 33, that they'd been living in shared accommodation for 4 to 5 years. So it was a life decision that they'd made. We found out that they absolutely wanted their own bathroom. So they wanted their own room, their own lockable bedroom, their own bathroom. They wanted a pantry that was lockable, an individual lockable pantry for food storage. And these are not, they shouldn't be difficult things to provide in accommodation. But unfortunately, most of what's out in the marketplace is what I'll call retrofit or renovated. So it's not built or fit for purpose. They want air conditioning in the bedroom that's temperature controlled to the room, and they absolutely want it fully furnished. So there's some things that if you can provide that sort of product to people, there's a huge marketplace that's there saying, we want somewhere to live.
Okay. So Scott, you're out there at the coalface of the industry on a daily basis. Adam's just sort of outlined sort of the wish list of the perfect world for tenants, but does anything like that currently exist out there in the marketplace?
Yeah, there's all forms of different options out there, but the question is there anything that is nice and livable that's out there for tenants is probably where I'm going to answer that, Terry, because there's lots of options for people to live if they really want to. But are they good options? I mean, I've inspected some pretty daggy places that I wouldn't even put my animals in if I went away, to be quite honest. There's a lot of crap out there, and there's a lot of things that, as Adam touched on, that has been converted. So they either were a house converted into rooms, or was a rooming accommodation, or a boarding house style, or it was units and flats that had just literally been built in the 40s or the 60s or who knows when. And there's a lot of mess out there. So there's not a lot of newer product that is comfortable and nice. There's always a lot of product there's not even a lot of it, but the product that is generally out there is what I would call, make do. I remember when I first bought my house when I was a lot younger. I had a mate bought a house, and he rented every corner of his house out that you could possibly rent, right? He even had a double garage. He split it in two and had 2 rooms and 2 blokes in there. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that can be out there, right? I mean, he was making a killing and paying off his house, and they liked it, whatever. It wasn't my thing. But the point is that's still available, and especially in this type of market, you'd be quite surprised what gets uncovered. So the short answer is, are there options out there? There can be if you find them, but there's very limited good options.
Okay, so Adam, you found out what people were looking for, but there was nothing really out there providing for that. So what was the response of the gallery group to the results of that survey?
Yeah, first we wanted to understand what the market is and what tenants are looking for. Then we need to say, okay, what constraints do we need to work within? And when I say constraints, parameters is probably a better word to use, and they relate to council zoning, so where we can build accommodation of this type and what it needs to look like, and whether there's any trigger points that turn it from being one type of accommodation to another. And we realised through our research that there's I'll call it a tipping point that comes the minute that you have more than 3 individuals sharing a property. As soon as you go from 3 people to 4 people, it converts to what's called rooming accommodation. So it moves it changes from sitting within the General Tenancy Act to the Rooming Accommodation Act. Yeah. As soon as that happens, the product type changes significantly. So it goes from being what's called 1A construction to 1B construction, which is more commercial construction, meaning that you need to have disability services, fire exits, and a whole host of other things to make it compliant. So the start of our process, once we understood the market, was to say, okay, how do we do this in a compliant way? Because what Scott was talking about there, where there's houses rented with multiple people, that's all well and good while the money is coming in, but there's the reality is that when someone's doing that, it's not if, in my view, it's when the music stops, and the music stops one of a couple of ways. In a Queensland context, Queensland Residential Services, so it's a state government department, polices or oversees this part of the marketplace. Queensland Residential Services, if you're in breach, they take a fairly, and understandably so, heavy hand to people that are, I'm going to say, illegally providing rental accommodation. They'll typically issue with a show cause notice and a fine for $130,550 for the alleged breach. So that's one of the deterrents or the problems that you face. The alternate problem that you face is you might have these 5, 6 or 7 people living in the property and it's all going swimmingly. The house gets broken into, there's a fire, there's damage, anything like that happens, you have zero insurance, and that's zero for the building and also public liability. So you, as an individual, you face a huge risk if you make the choice to go down that path. So
we've already actually got quite a lot of comments and questions coming in, and one from Margaret would appear to speak to what you're speaking about. She's asked if we could cover the council zoning requirements, also insurance. She says it sounds like this concept should be in an R3 unit development. So is she sort of honing in on some of the issues that you were talking about?
Yeah, so when you talk about council zoning requirements in every suburb, every LGA in southeast Queensland, you can build and lawfully rent these out as long as you have a maximum of three tenants. So it could be a 10-bedroom home, you can still only have 3 tenants. If you've got a couple sharing, that means again you can only have one other person. If you've got a couple and a child, then that's it. So it really is, there's a hard cap there for 3 people, and as long as you're doing that, you comply from a Queensland Residential Services. There are some other things that you need to do to meet the needs of insurance, because the insurance comes under a slightly different regime. So there's some different Australian standards that you need to meet to ensure that the property is covered for insurance. And there's specialist insurers out there that I know Scott's attuned to that cover this property type. So insurance is covered as long as it's being used lawfully and with the right insurer, and it's built with those some add-ons, if I call it that ensure that it's compliant. Property management is critical in this space, and we have an asset management business that manages almost 600 properties, and we have a specialist division within that manages these properties, because they really are, they're a concierge service more than just a property management service. It's very much about understanding personalities and demographics of the individual tenants, so that we're actually doing tenant matching. And we do that because we want longevity of tenants. We want people to move into a home. It's a brand new home that's really well built, high ceilings. It's got fantastic inclusions. But if the tenants don't get on, then we've got a problem. So we spend a lot of time in getting that personality matching and making sure that those relationships are a positive one.
Okay. So can we talk a little bit about the actual product, the physical parameters of what you sort of come up with in response to this demand and the research that you did?
Sure. Yeah. So we started and said, okay, over here we have this wish list, and then over here we have these government requirements, council requirements, etc. How do we bring the two together to create a product that works both? Again, this is about it being a win-win. So it has to win for tenants, which pays the rent for landlords, and it has to work for landlords. So the product we came up with is ostensibly a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home, and so two of the bedrooms have an ensuite and a garage. The 3rd bedroom has an ensuite that's also a 2-way bathroom that gets closed off in practical terms, and also has an additional media room. So you've got 2 people that might typically work out, so work away from home. So they've got garages, and the work from home person, whilst they don't get a garage, they get a home office. we've we've really tailored it to this new world order where more and more people are working from home.
So how new is this? It's actually out there as a physical product now, or is it just really launching?
It's launching. We know that whilst our concept is new, shared accommodation has been in the marketplace for, when my father was a uni student, people lived and continue to live in shared accommodation. It's just no one's designed it in a way that meets the needs and wants of tenants. So it's getting this market, as I said, that's 25% or 1 in 4 households. This market's just been left to their own devices, quite frankly. So it's such a huge opportunity that's quite frankly being unmet until now.
Okay, so Scott, we're talking about a product that meets the needs of tenants, but you're probably looking at all this from the perspective of the investors, because that's who you represent as a buyer's agent. So how does it work for the people that you have as clients?
Yes, so my clients are the greedy landlords, Terry, that are out there just gobbling up the world, as everyone seems to think in the current market. But when in reality, that's not the fact at all. So yes, the appeal for our clients is the rental return. So there's a couple of things there. So the rental return is the headline appeal, and the fact that in reality, you're diversifying the income from the one property, which is very difficult to do if you rented to one family unit, so to speak. So there's nothing against renting to one family unit. I mean, we've got plenty of clients that do that, and we do that continually now with our other clients. But on the co-living, I guess the risk versus reward aspect is that it's a new property you're building, you're getting that higher return, and the reward for that is the higher return and the splitting of risks, meaning that if you have 3 people in there and then one of them leave, you've still got the 2 incomes from the other rooms while you get the 3rd room filled again.
Okay.
You know what happens if a normal family leaves your house, right? You got nothing. So there is that splitting of the risk in terms of the income stream.
So what are some realistic numbers? A comparison between a 3 or 4 bedroom house that you might rent as one unit to one family unit, and what you might achieve rental as opposed to the sort of the room by room approach in co-living.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, so if we're looking at the long-term rental average in the southeast corner is between, I use 5%, but it can be down to 4.5 to 5% return. So call it $1 for 1,000. So if you're looking at something for 480 in terms of purchase price, 480, 500, you're going to expect that 480, 500 a week, right? That's sort of that 5.2% return, taking away some vacancy rates. But but in reality, for this product, that same property, reconfigured, and when we built for co-living, would be looking at anything between 730 to 900, depending on what we're getting at the time, the demand in that area, and the type of tenants that we are attracting. So I know that end target is a big variance, but either way, it's substantially more, even at the low end, than what you're going to get just renting it to one family unit, so to speak.
Okay. So Adam, it seems like we're talking about creating a situation where the investor owner could potentially double their rental return. Is that realistic?
Yeah, look, when we've run some numbers where we've said, okay, if you assume that the investor was borrowing all of the money, so 100% funded, we see that it's between $350 and $400 per week positive cash flow. So the numbers are quite astounding now. So you're $16,000 to $18,000 a year positive cash flow on one of these properties. So it's one of the challenges I think for investors is duplication. Buying one investment property as an investor. When you say what's your objective, it's for financial freedom, I would presume, for most people. Buying one property doesn't actually do that. And typically, if you've got something that's negatively geared or is I'll call it a burden on your week-to-week household income, it doesn't give you that opportunity to duplicate. This gives you the opportunity to duplicate through the yield without compromising on the capital growth opportunity.
Yeah. I'm always interested that a lot of people out there seem to think that you've got to make a choice between capital growth or good rental yield, positive cash flow. And I always think if you get the right product and choose your location where we can have both, you don't have to make that choice.
I totally agree. There's less products out there, so you have to do some more research, but they are out there, and I think for anyone that's looking at investing right now, I'll say we're blessed to be in a market that's moving as it is, and all the signs suggest that we've got some significant run in this, with Southeast Queensland being particularly affordable when compared with New South Wales and Victoria. So I think that the capital gains, certainly in the short time, are going to take care of themselves irrespective of where you go. But I know that Scott and his team do a lot of work around infrastructure and some metrics that help to identify locations where capital growth opportunity is afforded.
Okay. So what's
I do that easy, mate. I just look at Terry's reports and I just say, what did Terry say? Yeah, okay, let's go there. How's that? Is that the right plug, Terry? Do I do the right thing there? That's right.
I think you can get away with that. I'll talk to you later. But
cool. All right. Thanks.
Okay. So what sorts of locations is this co-living product available or going to be available in?
So I think one of the beauties of co-living is that it's not confined to a particular location. Certainly, if there's investors that are watching today, many would be familiar with the dual dwelling concept, which is the house, I'll call it in real simple terms, house with a granny flat. We built our first dual dwelling in 2011 and have been advocates of that product. I think one of the challenges for that product, one of the uncertainties around that product, has always been the question mark around capital growth. There's no doubt that it provides a really strong yield, but the question mark has always been around capital growth, because it inevitably is going to be unsold if it's sold in the future to an investor. The beauty of this product is that you unlock that market. The house at its core is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with high ceilings, mirror robe doors, air conditioning throughout, stone bench tops. So it's a good quality home that gives you that capital growth opportunity. So, and because it is just as I described, it means it can be built anywhere in Southeast Queensland.
Okay. So
it's important that, if I can just touch on that, Terry, because one of the big things we talk with our clients is on the exit strategy. Because it's all fun and exciting to get into a product now or a property, and it's like, well, how are you going to get out? Oh, well, that'll be, we're going to retire. We're going to do this. Look, I mean, we had one of our earlier clients. He went on a big buying spree and he did quite well, and they were always going to hold. He was going to hold forever. And we bought quite a few properties for him over the time. And then he rang me up one day and said, I've met a lady. I went, oh, that's good. That's good. He goes, yeah, we're getting married and we're going to open a business down in New South Wales. And he was up here. He worked in a bank. And he goes, yeah, so we've got to sell everything. I said, that's not part of your plan. He goes, yeah. So anyway, he got out really well. He made some money on his properties. But my point was, he had a plan to get in and to hold, but plans change, right? And most well-intentioned plans change. And he went into business, made good money out of that, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing is, you've got to look at the exit. If we'd only bought something with the view of a 50-year hold or this and that, he would have really struggled getting out. And so if you're looking at a property to buy and the only exit strategy is to another investor, that really limits your market. Now, you could still get a sale and you could still get an okay price. But if you've got a property that could be sold to an investor or an owner-occupier, then all of a sudden your market is 100% of the market, and it just gives you a much better chance and of not only a higher price, but a quicker sale and a better exit. And that's what this type of property does. It can go to an investor or it can go just as a normal house, and that's important.
Okay. All right. Well, we've certainly got a lot of questions and comments coming, so we might turn to those and we'll canvass some of the core issues around the co-living concept as we work through some of these questions. Just referring back to the research that you did, Adam, Christian is asking, is there any data around the tenants aged around 33 as to why they're living on their own?
Oh, so the 33 is an average age, so that means that there's tenants that are 25 and there's also tenants that are 45. And it's a really interesting exercise when you spend some time on flatmates.com.au, is that there's a much broader audience there that are living in shared accommodation. So it's not, I won't say it's specific to a 33-year-old. People are living on their own for all manner of reasons.
Okay. There's also a question that relates to the property management and tenancy agreement situation, expressing the view that the belief that there can only be one tenancy agreement in place. What's your response to that?
It's fair to say that we've invested a fair bit of time, both in terms of the constructability, making sure we meet National Construction Code, local compliances from a buildability. We've done a lot of research with our town planners around the compliance with residential services, etc., and making sure that things like insurance are covered. We've done a lot of work with Residential Tenancy Authority around the general tenancy agreements, and I'm extremely confident that individuals sign general tenancy agreements, and then you have a set of house rules that support it. So if we were living in a house together, the three of us living in a shared accommodation together, we would have what I'll call our private spaces, and there would be shared spaces. And those shared spaces, it's the responsibility of all of us to maintain those properties, that space properly. Okay. But I can say with absolute certainty that that 3 agreements, you can enter into 3 agreements.
Okay, all right. Now Jeff is raising a question that I think we've already touched on a little bit. Perhaps we could talk more broadly about it. Jeff's asking, will the property still get the capital growth in line with the area average? I suppose there's a concern. Some people, it's a specialist product, and I know Scott's already touched on that with some of his previous comments, but what's your response to that, Adam?
Look, I think that it's a specialist product in terms of its use. So it's absolutely specialist in terms of the way that it's being occupied. It's a high quality family home in terms of its core. It's 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, as I've said. High ceilings, mirror robe doors, air conditioning right through it, solar. I forgot to mention solar. So it's a good quality home. If you look at 90% of the homes that get built, new homes that get built, they're 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, double garage. This is 4 bedrooms. It's just got an extra bathroom. So I would think that for a family, if you've got I'll call it the nuclear family, 2 adults, 2 children, you've actually got more bathrooms that better service the traditional family that you might be thinking is the incoming purchaser. Yeah,
so someone who spent a lot of time in a family of me, the mother, and 2 grown girls, we had 2 bathrooms, but it wasn't enough. And I imagine a story, Terry. A lot of families, the extra bathroom would be most welcome and very practical. Bruno's says his concern is several single people living together, damage to the premises. Boys will be boys, and parties can get out of hand.
Well, I think
I don't know what you're talking about, Bruno.
Yeah, we're not talking student accommodation first and foremost. So yeah. This is not boys will be boys accommodation. This is homes for people that are in long-term employment. They're responsible adults, and the reality is they sign a lease agreement, they pay a bond, and if they misbehave in any way, shape or form, they're subject to the same issues that any other tenant would be. They'd be registered on tenancy databases, and they would find life very difficult to move into, find an alternate place to live. And just expanding on that, would this be applicable for retirement people who want to perhaps avoid the more traditional options? Maintain a level of independence in an affordable way. Absolutely, and we've got clients that have made a decision that they want their property to be rented to over 55-year-old females, and we are absolutely supportive of that and endorse that. Anytime you make a decision to have a smaller subset in terms of the tenancy, so whether it was females over 55 or young men between 22 and 26, which would be an odd thing for an investor to do, but if they did, so be it. Anytime you reduce your market, you have the potential to reduce the rentability, so it might take longer to rent. But there is a huge market, a substantial market in that 50+ market as well. So, and part of what we're doing again is in matching the tenants, so curating the communities, is to say, okay, if we've got a lady that's 56 years old, if there's like-minded females, etc., that we can put into the same accommodation, that sets up a really a positive home environment for those people that is beneficial to the investor because you've got long-term tenants, and it's also beneficial to the tenants because it helps to cure social isolation, which mental health issues as a consequence of social isolation spiked through COVID, and it's something that I think that the world over is far more attuned to now also.
Okay. Now, Alan is touching on the issue of valuations. I guess that there might need to be a little bit of education of valuers to understand this product.
I'm sure we won't have any valuers watching, Terry, but those valuers always need education. If you're talking about us as buyers agents or Adam as builders, but that's a topic for a completely different day, right? But valuers, look, these will service, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong here, these will service probably as a normal house and land package, right? I mean, in terms of the rental. Adam, have you come across anyone that will use the per room rental on the serviceability, or they just sort of write it down as a normal sort of 5% home yield sort of stuff?
Yeah, so if you were presenting this to a bank, you would present it to the bank with a standard rental appraisal. So if it was $500,000, it might be a $470 a week appraisal. That's how a bank would perceive it.
Yeah, the banks always take the lower of what they want, right?
Correct.
I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't matter how good it sounds; they're always going to hedge their bets in their favour.
Yep, there are a number of lenders out there. Not a huge amount, but there are a number of lenders out there that will look at the product, understand what it is, and they will use a 6% yield as the to do the serviceability for the client. So there's some positives there that it's being accepted by some non-bank lenders, and recognising that there is a greater yield that comes with this product type. Valuations, as you said, Scott, valuations, it's a different discussion. Anyone that's been in this business for a while will know that you could get a valuation on one property one day and it could be 10% short, and another valuer could walk in the door and it can be on the money. So anyone that says that they have a silver bullet for valuations, I'd love to take you out for dinner to learn your secret. It just doesn't exist. So I think first and foremost, when you're looking at buying investment property, you have to satisfy yourself that what you're buying is good value. If you do that, it's then only about your capacity. So if the valuation comes in 7% short and you've got the capacity to top up that valuation, then you should go ahead and do that. It's not for me, it's not for Scott nor Terry to say to you, do it. You have to satisfy yourself whether you think that the property is worth it. I think that the valuation challenge is going to get greater, not better, over the next 6 months, because we're all looking forward and seeing prices rising. So we're signing contracts of today. Valuers, by virtue of their business, looking at historical sales. Correct. So they're looking in the rearview mirror. So a land sale of 6 months ago is inevitably going to be 15 to 20% lower than it will be in the next 2 months. So there's immediately a disparity there. So if you're thinking about investing and it's predicated on the fact that valuations are going to come in on the dollar, I suggest you stop your journey right now, because no one can promise that. Go and do something else.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem in a booming market, right? Is that the data is always behind the times, and that's the way it works. And as exactly how you just said, is that both the banks and the valuers use data that's old, and it's even real estate. Like, I've obviously got a lot of real estate agent mates, and sometimes in these sort of markets, they just throw their hands up and go, "We don't even know how to price it. We've got a price from this property or this price of land here, but someone can pay this now." So it's all over the place.
Okay, so Mary, we've talked, I guess, in terms of Southeast Queensland so far in the discussion, but Mary's asking about how this works in other states, and you have a presence outside of Queensland, Adam. So I imagine you've looked at that as well.
Yeah, look, we're actively building these in Victoria as well. So they work right across Greater Melbourne, Geelong, and Ballarat. I think importantly, everything that we do, we start by looking at the data, and it's about tenant demand. So, and that's, again, the beauty of flatmates.com.au. You can go to an area. We know through our research that someone will move within a 15-kilometre radius if the property is right. So in Flatmates, you can do a search for up to 20 suburbs. We do it on a 10K radius assumption. You can very quickly look and see how many individuals are looking to rent in a certain area, and that will tell you very quickly whether there's tenant demand. So I suspect, unfortunately, rural areas, there's probably not the demand there for it. Whilst land prices are cheaper, we like to have some, I'm going to call it certainty, or some real confidence, data backed, that there's tenants out there actively looking today.
Okay. So Timothy is asking, would you be able to walk us through an example with numbers that show how it actually works? Is that something that's relatively simple to do without putting graphs and charts on the screen?
The numbers are... Scott, would you like to do this, or do you want me to do it?
Okay, well, we got some numbers somewhere. Let's have a look here. You can help me if I get stuck on this. So essentially, I got some pretty heavy rain happening at this end, Terry, which is pretty much anytime we want to do a show, you can guarantee that my grass is going to get wet.
Well, that's right. And I don't live that far from you, so it's also raining where I'm sitting.
There you go. So, okay, so it could be over to Adam if no one can hear us, but essentially the room by room. So we've got a standard house, say a house and land package of 490,000 at Logan Reserve. It's on a standard block of, what are they, 450s down there, I think? 300 square meters, whatever
450 square meters. Yep.
The actual house size is about 170 to 180 square meters for the house, and then each room is rented. Now, Adam, it's getting pretty loud here. Do you want to go through what each room rents for and why they're sort of renting that way?
Happy to do that, mate. Yeah. So if you assume that the land price is $240,000 for a block of land, and that's probably at the lower end now, and it's going to change. If we were doing this in a week's time, it might be more. But if you said the land was $240,000, a 4-bedroom house is probably $260,000. So it's a $500,000 package. So that will rent, as Scott suggested, for about probably $470 a week, something like that. If you flip that to a co-living product, the same lot type, important to note that we can build these co-living products down on a lot type that is 10.5 by 28 metres, so less than 300 square metres, and we've got a range of designs that help drive that affordability on this product type. So $240,000 on the land, the building contract will be around $300,000 with site costs, so you're $530,000 or thereabouts. You've got a furniture package that comes with the property. Important to understand that it is a part of the purchase, and it can be financed. So when you add that to it, the rental return for each of the bedrooms, we know will be about $300 per week. We're seeing lots of instances where people are achieving more than that, but we're using $300 a week as a baseline. So at $300 a week per room, $900 a week. Again, that will show a positive cash flow. If you're doing an interest-only loan at, say, 2.5%, you'll be at about $350 a week positive cash flow. And again, the things that as an investor, the things that you need to satisfy yourself first and foremost are, is there a market out there for tenants? If you can't reconcile that there's a market out there for the tenants and people want to live like this, then when it comes time to making a decision, you won't take that leap. If you understand that market and the depth of that market, the decision from there becomes easy. It really does, because we know that there is such an undersupply of this product type. If you understand the fact that there's so many tenants out there looking for somewhere to live, it's an easy purchase from there.
Okay. So Mandy's question, I think you've touched on, perhaps answered some of this. Minimum size of land required, frontage required, normal house size. It may vary from location to location as well, I suppose.
Absolutely. So we've got a 2-story design that fits on a 10 metre wide lot that's 22 metres deep, and we've got designs to fit on 14 metre frontages as well. So we understand, because of our business, we understand what I'll call the standard lot grids, both in Southeast Queensland and Victoria, and have designed the homes to suit the standard lot grids.
Okay. So Stephen's asking about the bank's attitude to these products, serviceability, rental income, etc., etc. Yeah, so I imagine you've looked at that issue as well.
Yeah, look, again, this is this conversation where we know that we're going to get $900 a week rent. Can you put that forward to the bank as part of the rental appraisal? The answer to that, unfortunately, is no. You need to put forward the standard rental appraisal, and they will accept it on that basis. They'll accept it and do your serviceability calculations based on standard rent.
Okay. All right. Rick is
Terry,
asking.
there's a lot of questions here about the tenancy and how it works and who pays for what and all that sort of stuff. But that's going to be in the overall tenancy agreement that is done, which is in that specialised division that Adam's talking about within their asset management team. So there's a little bit of IP around that, and they spent a lot of time structuring that sort of stuff. But it's safe to say that that's all covered in there. So things like utilities, the damage to common areas. Who pays for what and when, what they can use and when they can use it. Can they have people over? Can they not? So that's all covered in those it's not secret docs, but those docs they put a lot of time in. It's probably, they're quite in depth. I don't know if we're going to go into great detail and all that there, but it's safe to say that that's all covered when that time comes and you need to access them.
I guess I can probably add to it slightly just to say in terms of the weekly outgoings, so power, water, etc. The services get connected in the owner's name, and part of our property management service is then to collect that money from the tenants. So if there was a water bill and water bills come in 2 parts. There's the connection fee, the access fee, and then there's the usage fee. It's legislation that the access fee is paid for by the landlord, but the usage fee can be paid for by the tenant. And part of our model is that the tenants pay for that water. So if the water bill came in and it was $300, our service is to then go to the tenants, collect that $100 each from the tenants, and pay the water bill on behalf of the owner. So services connected in the owner's name, but paid for by the tenants. And likewise with power, we put solar on the property to mitigate electricity costs. But we know through experience that if the tenants aren't paying for it, they'll leave the lights on, they'll just leave the power running, they'll leave air conditioning running, and the bills will mount very quickly and they'll become the owner's problem. So this is about compressing the costs, making the tenants accountable and responsible, which provides a better return for our investors.
We're getting a lot of questions around those issues, as you've observed, Scott. And I must say, we're getting a lot of questions. I don't think I've done a webinar with so much engagement and with people with so many questions, which I think is kind of encouraging that people are.
It's my hair, Terry. It's the hair that's got everyone really engaged on this webinar. You can see that I've spent a lot of time getting ready for today. Okay,
thank you for that contribution. And Bruno is asking who takes responsibility for the cleaning and the maintenance and the lawn mowing. So there's all sorts of issues popping up in people's minds about
Bruno's
this.
Other question's really good. It's like, are the sexes mixed? So I don't know where Bruno's going with his questions here, but I'm going to let Adam answer that one.
He did ask the question a little bit earlier too about is this best a product where the genders are not mixed, or does I don't know.
I might just start with the gardening and the maintenance of the property. That's an easy one. That's an easier one to tackle. So maintenance of the property is a shared responsibility between the tenants, and again, the house rules clearly articulate what's the responsibilities of the tenants that move into the homes. And so likewise, if if myself, Scott and Terry were living in a property, we would collectively have responsibility for maintaining the garden, for cleaning the house, etc. Part of our service with our Click Concierge service is if tenants say, look, we would like to get a cleaner in, we can make that arrangement for them and have a cleaner go in once a week, once a fortnight to do those sorts of things to the common areas. Individual rooms would be the responsibility of the tenants, and likewise garden, outdoor areas. You need to recognise that the tenants that are moving into these properties have the same rights and same responsibilities as any tenant moving into a property.
Okay. Rick asked some question about the cost of the furniture package, and is this built into the package price, or does it come from another source?
No, so furniture package is $25,900, and it's all inclusive, and it's the role of our Click Concierge, our property management team, to have that delivered, unpacked, installed, and rubbish removed. And we've got a 5-day bump in to do that, and we do it in that way because our tenants are comfortable and like the quality of the furniture package. And we know that if someone says, oh, look, I'd like to do it myself, that 5 days can elongate to 4 weeks pretty quickly. And if they don't, if they then start to buy furniture off Gumtree to save money and it's not sufficient quality, all of a sudden they won't be getting their $300 a week, they're getting $200 a week, and then people will circle back to us and we'll be the ones at fault. So we're...
Adam, you're telling everyone my secrets for buying furniture. I'd really like you to stop that now. The question, I'd just like to, that's the common area furniture, right? So the each individual room, the people bring their own bedding?
So each room comes with a bed, so bed, right, bedside table, etc. Data points in each bedroom. It's just the mattress that the tenants either come with, or again, part of our move-in service is if someone ticks a box to say they'd like a mattress on arrival, then we can have a mattress delivered for them.
Okay.
But mattresses, just from a hygiene perspective, mattresses go with each tenant.
Right. Rick is also asking, can Scotty show us a quick sample of a current package that's for sale in the area that, hotspot area that we recommend? Is that something you can do, Scott?
Mate, I can do all sorts of stuff. Can I share a screen?
Yes, I think you can.
Okay. Have we got my screen?
Yes, well done.
Okay, so this is one in Logan Reserve that I was, looking at, talking about before in Botanica, and there's. I don't want to go too fast. Sorry. So as you can see, it looks like a normal house, just a normal little house there, all neat and tidy and what have you. So there's no, that was one of the things with dual keys. You could they looked almost like a normal house, but there was 2 entries and there was like maybe 3 garages and what have you. So they were a little bit deceiving in that you could kind of pick them out. But this definitely looks like a normal house. And if we click on the photos, that doesn't bring up very big at all, does it? Where can I go? Oh, there we go. So I don't know how big that's appearing on your screen there, Terry, but you can see this is the features that that Gallery have in here. So we've got all the cupboards above the cooktop, the good finishes and fixtures, the stone, 20 mil stone, that sort of stuff. Feature pendants. So there you go. There's some style even in a rental property. So this is the sort of things that are part of the exit strategy, right? So it's not only you make sure that those are in there right now so that you don't have the concerns with damaging laminate tops because we've got stone or scratching them or whatever. So you make them a little bit better now, but it's the sort of things that an owner occupier would want in their property if you ever come to sell it, and for when they bought it, that just makes it that little bit easier to exit for you. So this is what's important. So just, having things that look a bit more modern, the frameless mirrors and all that sort of stuff. So this is what's in the co-living properties. And that's the standard that we work with. So as you can see, they're not cut down. They're not literally, timber tents. They are a proper home that is fully featured and well finished. So that is, that's that. Where's the floor plan? Here we go. Does that come up big enough for you guys?
Yeah, I can see that. Bigger. Even with my fading eyesight, I can read the small print.
So that one, just as an aside, will fit on a 10-metre wide lot.
There you go. Okay, so you can see standard double garage, and we've got the 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. So bedroom 1, ensuite, bedroom 2, ensuite, bedroom 3, bathroom, and then depending on the configuration is depending on, there's this other room here that you can put into the tenancy for one of the rooms and things like that. So there's a few different ways you can factor the tenancies, but that's what the team does. But as you can see there, that's, it looks like a great house. I mean, it's just a nice brand new home with design that enables you to capture that extra rental return without denying you the capital growth that's normally associated with property. And I think that's something that is definitely worthwhile looking at if you're in the market to add to your portfolio in the coming time.
Okay, so just while you're sharing your screen and why, and bearing in mind that we're sort of coming up towards the end of the hour that we've allocated for the webinar today, can you put some contact details perhaps up, or otherwise let people know if they're interested in the product and they want to follow up and ask further questions or take some action, what do they do?
Yeah, that's fine. So our contact details for Property Hotspot is up here on top of the screen. So it's 1300 667789. Or you can find us on the web at www.propertyhotspot.com.au. So we take all the information that Terry provides in his data reports, and we only provide property in the areas that Terry has approved. So they're Terry approved areas, so you know they're good ones. And that's how you contact us. So jump on there, propertyhotspot.com.au and 1300 667789, and you'll get one of our team to be able to talk to you on that. But that's the website there. And there's some dude there, I don't know, he looks semi-familiar, that's talking about what he does for us in terms of Property Hotspot. But that's the phone number.
Okay, thank you for that.
I can stop sharing now?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
All right. All right, so I've got another question here that came in a little bit earlier from Greg. Adam, he's just asking about the current timeframes for land registration in Southeast Queensland for this product. So is there anything available that is registering shortly, or is it a fair way off?
Look, I think as a broad statement, the sales activity in Southeast Queensland has been heightened, if I call it that, as a function of home builder. It's a nice way of putting it. So once upon a time where there were lots and lots of blocks of land available that were sitting and finished on the ground, I think that's a thing of the past. I think that if you're looking at purchasing, the first thing you have to do is get what I'll call your house in order and be ready to make a decision. So satisfy yourself that it's a product type that you have confidence in. Get your finances in order such that when you're looking to make the decision to move, you can, so that you're ready, willing, and able. Understand what your borrowing capacity is, and be ready to move, because there are opportunities out there, but land vendors are, I'm going to use the word, impatient. So we're certainly finding that when I saw that smirk then, Scott, we're certainly finding that when we issue a sales advice into a land vendor, if they send us the contracts today, they expect those contracts to be returned within 24 hours. So gone are the days of saying, look, I'll get to it next weekend. If you're not prepared to move quickly and in a pace and timing that suits the land developers, they are taking it back from you, from people, and they're reselling it at a higher price. So yes, there's stock out there, but you have to be ready to move.
It's just that the current reality of markets right across Australia at the moment, isn't it? That he who hesitates is often lost. We are in the midst of a nationwide property boom, and things are moving quickly, and people do need to have all their ducks in line and be ready to take action.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anywhere that your Gallery Homes is currently operating that isn't like that at the moment? I don't think there would be.
Oh, look, if there was a glut of lots sitting on the ground that were titled, one would have to ask the question why. So
Be Russell Island or something, wouldn't it, Adam and Terry? That'd be.
I hear even Russell Island's very busy at the moment. So.
Okay.
Look, I think that again, I think it's being ready, willing, and able to move, and once upon a time saying, no, I only want to be in this location, you're going to make it very, very difficult for yourself. I had someone request of me yesterday that they only wanted a duplex on the Sunshine Coast, and I just said, look, I'll get back to you in 4 years' time. It's just there's supply is such that the realities are that you need to be more flexible around that, just because of the state of the market. But they come up. We've got a team that spend their entire time sourcing land, and opportunities present themselves. It's about demonstrating that you're ready to go. We're now saying to people, we've got, particularly for this product type, co-living, because there's only so many that we can do or will do in any area, because we're not going to oversupply in any area. We take people seriously when we receive an expression of interest form, the driver's licenses for those that are going to be onto the contract, and a deposit receipt showing that they paid $1,000 into account, so that we can give that to a land agent and say, these are the names of the people, these are their driver's licenses. It's what we're saying is, help us help you. If people aren't able to do that, then we understand you're probably still in that investigative learning phase, and we entirely understand that.
Okay. All right, we've just got a few minutes left, so perhaps Adam, just perhaps some parting comments, a summary of the product, the offer, and why people should be interested.
Look, I think that, again, I go back to the numbers. There's more than 2 million people living alone today, and there's very little accommodation that suits those people. It makes no sense to me as a landlord to have someone moving into a property and the day they move in being under rental distress. It's the banks look at you as a borrower, and wouldn't put you into something where you were paying more than 30% of the mortgage. You need to take that same approach to tenants that are moving into the property. So I think that there's this unforgotten growing percentage of the population that's just been ignored until now. So we're certainly very focused on getting ahead of the curve, having a brand that supports the property management and supports the tenants. And in doing that, having what I'll call tenant loyalty, and creating a community of people that see real value in living in our homes.
Okay, thank you for that, Adam. And thanks for your presentation today. Scott, if you could perhaps have the final word, and just, again, let people know what they should do if they would like to follow up and ask further questions or to take action.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, part of what we do is when we deal with people is making sure that whatever they end up with is right for them. So just because this is an awesome product, it may or may not be right for you. So we got a bit of a thing where we take you through to make sure that it is right for you. So either way, you got to contact us. So jump on to www.propertyhotspot.com.au, and there's a contact us button there. You just hit it. You can fill in an inquiry, or you can call us on 1300 667789. There's no doubt that this is a fantastic product. It's been very well thought out of. And I think it's got long legs, which is very important for investment, because you don't chop and change out of property, right? You're not a trader, you're an investor. So you're in there for a decent period of time. And it's important to have that consideration. There's a whole bunch of other things you've got to consider when you're doing something as an investor too. So there's those things for your personal goals, your family, your legacy, all that sort of stuff. Where does this fit within your portfolio? What's it need to do? Those are all the things that we go through with you as part of the purchase journey, so to speak, or the process. So it's very important that we have a chat to you. You could very well end up with this product, but we definitely make sure that it is the right one for you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Look, I'm glad we had this discussion today. It's just proven my view that investors out there are only interested in talking about location, and that because we've got very good numbers registering for today's event, and we've certainly got a lot of engagement, a lot of questions, more so than we would normally get for a 1 hour webinar. So I think that's very encouraging, and it's good to see that investors are interested in talking about something other than where they're going to buy. So thank you, Adam Barclay from Gallery Homes, Scott Northcote from Property Hotspot, And I'm Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au. Thanks for your participation today. Let's do it again soon.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Scott.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye for now.